Everybody, welcome again to Equity Guru. It's Chris Parry here, your favorite host, and Alex Klenman. I've talked to you more than I've talked to my ex-wife over the past few years, okay?
I certainly hope so.
It's a low bar, let's just say that. But look, Azincourt is the company that we're talking about today. AAZ is the ticker symbol. We've been talking about you for a while, and for the vast majority of that time, it's been all about a certain East Preston uranium project that you've been drilling recently and will continue to drill, as I understand.
Yep.
But you've, in the parlance, they say sometimes stick to your knitting. Have you decided to move to a sewing machine with your latest news, or have you still got, not to torture the metaphor, but knitting needles in hand?
That's one of the reasons I love talking to you. It's always fun. We announced the acquisition of a lithium project that we really like. It is in our lane, to use another metaphor. We've been in this lithium space more than once over the past 5 or 6 years.
Yep.
Anybody who's been around will know that we had a deal in 2018-19 for lithium projects in Manitoba. Didn't get drill permits in a timely manner, and the capital wasn't as free-flowing as it was a little later on, so we walked away from that. We had a Peruvian project that had some lithium numbers until recently. We walked away from that as well, and that was simply because South America is becoming less and less a great place to work for a small junior. So we wanted to find, there's no secret, I've spoke about it. I may even have spoken about it to you in an interview, but I've made no bones about it that we have been shopping, and we have been shopping for some time for another project. And the main thing we want to do is, one of the complaints I get over time is that we go into long dead space, dead periods of no news flow because we can't get on the ground at East Preston to drill in the summer. And what are you going to do? So, people are like, you got 4 or 5 months of activity.
Uranium did slow down.
Yeah. And then boom. And that's really no fault of ours. There's a lot of factors involved, weather, local communities, and the use of the land in the off times. So we waited until we found the right one. This didn't break the bank. It's just south. The project ground is just south of the Kraken deposit, or the Kraken discovery by Benton and Sokoman, which is really quite a significant discovery in Newfoundland. We really like Newfoundland. I've been exposed there with other companies in the past, and it's a great place to work. And the great thing about it too is that Newfoundland hasn't been pin-cushioned, use another cliche or parlay in the language. And so there's a lot of ground, a lot of discoveries yet to.
Are you saying there's not as many pricks in Newfoundland as there are in Alberta?
I'm not saying that. But, we know that just based on the history, that there's a lot of discoveries to come based on geology, based on the lack of work, and specifically in this space, the lack of lithium exploration.
There's a lot of attention out in the Maritimes right now, especially in Newfoundland. It's basically, for a long time, was forgotten, because there were plenty of targets in Ontario, plenty of things happening in the prairies. But people are discovering that there's a part of Canada that's beyond Quebec.
Yeah, and you see, what you get is, it always takes that one drill hole.
Right.
And it happened in, Red Lake was ignored for a long time until, Great Bear did their thing.
Yep.
And then Newfoundland was on no one's radar until Newfound Gold makes a generational find. And now with the Kraken discovery and some other things percolating, it's being looked at as a potential lithium market or lithium location as well. And so we're involved with that now, and we're excited about it. And I think it gives us year-round news flow and gives us some exciting upside and some exposure to lithium at the same time.
The detractors, of which there will always be plenty on the Canadian public markets, will say, lithium, it's kind of a flavor of the day. Uranium was the flavor a couple of months back. Lithium was the flavor before that. Uranium was a flavor. Like, everything sort of comes in ebbs and flows. Yeah. They're going to say that you're chasing, Alex.
Sure. And they can say that. The great thing is, we haven't deviated at all from our mission statement. which has been in place since 2017.
It's about energy, right? Azincourt Energy, not Azincourt Uranium.
Right. And we changed the name in 2017 to Azincourt Energy to specifically accommodate multiple materials, and knowing that you can go into these long dark periods that you've had. Say we had a uranium bear that lasted, a lifetime for many. And so, we haven't stepped out of our lane. This is exactly falls within our purview. And so we're really not chasing anything. We're actually, I think, adding exposure that in a good market, let's be honest, because when the market shifts, we're going to get credit for this one.
Well, you certainly get a lack of credit when you do good things over the last year. You've had plenty of discredit when things don't go your way. You see to ride all the downs and not necessarily the highs. Is that just a thing that comes with juniors of a certain level in this market? Because I know the mid majors, when uranium prices go up, they go up. But the little guys
look like geniuses,
right? The little guys that are maybe a couple of years less advanced on their properties, they just don't get that same love. Is it just a lack of capital that doesn't allow to stretch back into the small stuff, or is it more about a timeliness matter? Like we're investing in the guys that might be close.
Yeah. Well, right now there's just money's on sidelines. So, that's the reality of it, no matter what. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, a really astute market player who basically, said, wow, you're not getting a lot of love for your news release. I said, listen, you're going to have to put a world-class hole out to get any love at all. And I still think if you get any at all, it's going to be muted. You're not going to get maximum return. You got to bide your time, get through these things. But funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, you don't get a lot of credit. I used to coach a lot of baseball. I coached third base, and if you send a runner home and they get thrown out, everyone looks at you. But if the runner scores, everyone looks at the runner and says, "Great job." So it goes with the territory. You got to have a thick skin, and you have to understand that people have a right to vent, and they have their opinions. And there's a whole cottage industry of opinions.
So I think the reality is that if you look at it objectively, your market cap now is what, $10 million?
Yeah.
Your market cap a year ago was closer to 50 million.
Yeah.
And your uranium property is further progressed than it was. And now you've got lithium on top, but you've got an 80% price saving if people are investing right now.
Right. And, we'll always get hammered because of share structure and things like that. But in a good market, it's really not going to hurt you. It hurts you now when, there's a lack of buyers and everyone's looking for places to liquidate to keep the cash flow going.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. Even at a loss, people will take their cash off the table. There's not a lot of places that you can do that right now.
You know what? Just myself over the last week, I've taken some cash out of the market, and from places where I thought this might hurt. If I might miss
something. You don't want it
here.
if you don't have to. Yeah. I know the feeling.
Everybody's going through it. So the other side of it is that when you're selling stuff that you like at a discount price, someone else is making the purchase, saying, all right, this is a good time to buy in.
Right, exactly. Now, most people aren't aggressive in this market, but smart ones are bidding, because they'll just take those fills. And so you do see that, and no one's really chasing anything. So we didn't expect, to light the market on fire with that news release, because that's not what we do. We're not trying to, manipulate or react to or cause reactions in the market. We are trying to deliver shareholder value. And if anybody doesn't think that this has that potential, they're not doing their homework. Look where we are, and more importantly, look at who we picked the project up from. These guys were involved with the Alchem merger, intimately involved with the Alchem merger. They're Australians for the most part. That was a $6 billion merger. So why would they suddenly just decide to get into the staking and selling business, which is generally populated by, prospectors, and not guys who are coming off a $6 billion deal? For me, that was a big part of this. They're going to be involved with this. We're utilizing their geologists. This isn't their only land position in Newfoundland. can read into that any way you want. But there's a lot of future relationship built into this deal, and it's going to be very beneficial for Azincourt. And it's we like what we see.
That was going to be one of my questions for you. Is like it's well and good to be in two areas that are both energy related, but uranium and lithium, very different, from a geological standpoint. You need different experts on the ground.
Yeah.
So with this deal, you're actually getting the experts as well as the property.
We are, and they will be working very closely with Trevor Perkins, our VP of Exploration. Trevor is very much focused on their uranium assets, and will continue to do so. But that was one of the things that attracted us to this opportunity, and that was getting involved with people who've made big discoveries in the lithium space. They've managed big lithium deposits. They know what they're doing, and you can't underestimate that added value.
Is this like one of 20 that they're doing, or is this the whole that this is it?
Yeah, well, who knows what else they'll do. They're private at this point. But yeah, our understanding is this is really just
this is something they're really interested in.
Yeah, well, like I said, they have other land packages back there, and they'll be doing something with that at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we're the only ones at this point that I'm aware of that they've gotten involved with, and they don't want to spread themselves too thin. The other side of it is, they like us. We have some mutual contacts that put us together, and everybody's got good relationships, and that was one of the reasons the deal got signed.
I always like it when guys that do a lot more and deeper due diligence than I do put skin in the game. You always see sometimes guys that are like, oh yeah, we've got a XYZ on the board, and he's a champ. And you look around and you find out that XYZ is on the board of like 25 other companies, and they made one big hole somewhere, but
right.
The guys that actually have skin in the game that are saying, okay, let's sidle up alongside you and help you do the work and get you in there. Those are much rarer. And the fact that they've done due diligence on you and thought, yeah, Klenman, he's all right. That's not bad.
Well, sometimes there's a bug on the windshield. You never know.
Well, the Australians aren't slow to put forth their negative opinion.
No, I have limited experience with Australians. I did. There was something that went on many, many years ago where a group was very interested in buying an asset of one of the companies I was with, and we went on several dinner dates and never consummated. So it was the fact that they never answered.
That's also very Australian, by the way.
Yeah, well, we got there. They never answered the call after taking us right to the doorbell. So that I found that annoying, because at least say no, at least reject us. But we never even got the rejection. So anyway, I know that these guys are sharp, and I'm happy to be involved. If anybody wants to know a little bit more about them, the names are in the news release. They can look those guys up and they can see exactly who they are.
So tell me what's going on with the uranium side of things. Like, I know that the news flow peaks and then it slows down for the season. Are we at the slow for the season, or is there still?
It would appear so. Yeah, it would appear so. It's just like everything else right now. Even with $2,000 gold, gold is not catching any fire at all.
For sure.
And so it's a struggle, the macro picture. And again, we were chatting about this briefly before you hit the record button, but it really is. I mean, history is telling, and you can look back at all the down markets over time, and what you'll find is that what comes immediately after a down market is an up market. So we just have to be patient. It's going to change. Hopefully people can survive. In the meantime, I don't know what people do, but it's an ugly world at the moment. But we should have a commodities market, and a pretty good one, coming out of this. And it's funny, you don't think about it when it's happening, and it's hard to understand it when it's in full bloom. But we had a really good market for several years, and didn't really know how good it was until you got your butt kicked on the other side.
Yeah, but the thing for me is we can talk about, like, the .com bust, and 2008 and 2011 and 2018 and COVID. The thing that always strikes me about all of those disaster periods is that the guys that just saw not necessarily a bottom, but a bottom enough and started buying in were the ones that were sitting on the big wins later, right? Like you don't want to be chasing, you want to be leading, you want to be maybe Azincourt stock will drop from 4 cents to 3 cents. Who knows?
Right.
But if you're confident that a $10 million market cap is really cheap for a uranium deposit in a good part of town that's progressing, plus now a lithium deposit with guys that have had billion-dollar exits in the past, I feel like that's a pretty good bet. Like you take a little bit of side money there and say, if this drops a little bit next week, I don't care, because what I'm looking at is 2024, 25, 26, and this will be in a magnificent buy-in at that point.
You know what, and we've been through this, and I've been through it, and every single time there's blood in the streets, I recognize the fact, tell myself I need to saddle up some courage and go in and start loading up, and I rarely do to any great degree, and then I curse the fact that I didn't when the market changes. You're right, this is the best time. The problem is the menu is big, and you're hungry, and it's hard to read 7 or 8 pages of the menu, find something to eat, when everywhere you look there's something good. So we got that problem right now as well. I mean, if you have a little bit of money, where do you put it? Where do you think?
I'll tell you where you put it. You put it behind the guy who answers the questions when there's blood in the streets, right? You put it behind the guy who says, yeah, sure, the stock is down, but when my phone rings, I answer it and I talk to guys. There's a lot of people out there that say, well, blood in the streets, don't worry about it. Down economy, we're still going well. Hey, you can lie to people, but they know, right? They can see. And, the fact that you've got a nice, inexpensive lithium project at a time when lithium projects are in demand, with a partner of note, is worthwhile. To me, look, the train might not leave the station tomorrow, but it will leave the station. And quite frankly, I don't want to wait till it's at 7 cents, 8 cents, 9 cents.
Well, you know what? A lot of people, you're right, but a lot of people like the confidence that comes with seeing that little bit of upward movement. Because then they say, okay, now, nobody wants to tie their money up. I don't want to put my money in a tin can, bury it in the backyard, and come back in 5 years. You want to make sure that you're putting your money in as close to the move as possible. So one thing that we know based on past history is all of a sudden we're going to wake up and everyone will be deciding at the same time that now the train is about to leave the station and they're going to start to deploy their capital. So we should see that, and we know it's coming. It's just in the meantime, red is no one's favorite color, so don't look.
So if we assume that this time next year you're progressing lithium, you're progressing uranium, and that removes that down period of your news flow, right? You've got news going year round instead of just when uranium drilling's done. Good stuff. How quickly does that lithium project progress to that point?
Yeah, well, we're actually going to we have a meeting a week from today, a week from yesterday, pardon me, and we will be making the plans to be on the ground in late May and early June. So we are actually going to start to work the project immediately. So there will be news releases, there will be interesting data that we'll be compiling, we'll be on the ground, and that's just the first step. I mean, there's 4 target zones we're going to go to. We're looking, there's so many theories as to how these lithium deposits are generated and how they occur, and so we're hopeful here.
You don't have to wait for a year and a half of government dithering to get permit.
Nothing.
You don't have to wait for First Nations to say it's okay.
No, we're ready to go, and that was another reason why the deal was so good. It doesn't break the bank. It's really kind of cheap. Comes with these guys. Comes with proximity to known lithium discovery. Not very far away at all. It's clicks north. We're a few clicks south, and we got lots of ground, multiple target zones, and we're going to be on the ground in a few weeks, and that's exciting because, as I mentioned, most of the conversations I've had over the last few years is, can you get another project? Can you work East Preston in the summer? Yep. The answer is yes. Under particular circumstances, we can, but those circumstances, need to present themselves, and that would be, significant intercept. And then negotiating with the communities to look for these little windows where we can get in and do limited programs that won't disrupt caribou herds, won't disrupt hunting and fishing and trapping and recreational use. And then, we can do that.
So you're playing blackjack and you just bought insurance, basically.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We have the Hatchet Lake project too with Valor. That is going through First Nations consultations, and that's going to drag on for a while. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to could take another year, could take 6 months. But that's a question mark, and I don't like to work within question marks. That you can't bank on that. And when it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, well, we'll deal with that. But in the meantime, hey, we've got this new project, Big Hill Lithium, and we're going to explore, and we're going to get the news flow going, and we're going to see why these guys really like this project enough to stake the ground when they don't necessarily have a monetary reason to do so. They've made their money. They've made their bones, right?
Good enough. So I guess my last question really, and it's potentially a prickly one. Do you have the funds to go work both these projects in tandem?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now, the beginning stages of where the lithium project is. I mean, we're going to spend, I don't know, $250,000 this summer. We'll come back. We can spend up to $500,000 in the fall, depending on what we see in the summer. So yeah, we've got plenty of money. We funny thing is I've been getting a lot of questions like, you're going to finance. And you and I have had this conversation, and I make
not at this price.
Well, here's the thing, Chris, you know this. As an exploration company, you don't necessarily get in the habit of saying no. If the institutional funds want to fund you, you have to, you have to kind of go, you have to say yes in a lot of ways. I mean, I wouldn't take 10 million at 4 cents.
Right.
$1 million just to top things up, make sure work's continuing. And most of it's flow through. I mean, we've got a lot of hard dollars in the bank, so we don't necessarily have to do anything with that. So yeah, it's about relationships too. And what you don't want to do is the funds have a lot of places to put money.
Yeah.
And if you say no when they want to buy cheap and have the capital to deploy, well, they may not say yes later on when you're higher and you need the money. And you can't, you have to weigh that out. And the best thing to have, the best strength through a bad market is a good treasury.
Okay. So devil's advocate.
Yeah.
You find nothing on the lithium property. You've spent 250 grand to find that out. And oh, well, are there other explorers out there that I know spend 250 grand on office space? Right. It's the country club fees. Yeah. You're out of the home.
I am. I do still have an office downtown. I'm just not there as much as I used to be, but I work out of this place. So, there you go.
You're keeping the costs down and putting the money in the ground. So like, all right, risk management, you've got money in the bank to do the projects that you've got. You've just added a project and another sector. You've got good deep pocketed partners that seem to like you and what you're doing. And if all goes to shit in the lithium side of things, you're no worse off than you were a month ago as a uranium play.
100%.
And yet your stock price is down from the announcement that you're also now a lithium play.
Yeah.
It's a bonus. It's like going to Costco and finding you can get, $3 for a loaf of bread or $2 for 3 loaves. It doesn't make any sense.
No, and that's what I've been trying to explain to people over the last, since we made the announcement. I had a lot of calls and people say, well, you don't explain your thinking here. And if lithium is really roaring and we make some decent discovery here, we're going to see benefit. If uranium gets back to where we all know it's going to be, at what point, we don't know, but it's going to come back. When it does, and we make impactful discovery, and we're really close at East Preston, then we get lift from that. Our market cap will benefit. But if they both are going at the same time, you're going to get double a bang for your buck. And it's in terms of risk reward, it's relatively low risk. It's a little bit of flow through capital to get this ball rolling, a little bit of hard cash out the door on the signing of the deal, but not a ton. And listen, we have $5 million in the bank, and we're in good shape. We may take more money, so but again, I know there's some money out there. We have money on the table, and I've been pushing it, kicking it down the road a little bit. I don't know how long I'm going to hold on, but we'll see.
Okay, so work being done.
Work being done, man,
and
within a
risk
few
being
weeks.
won.
Yeah. Can't wait for that news release. It's great to be able to put news out in May and June and July that, it could be impactful.
It's not so bad. Well, having good news flow makes me a happy marketing guy. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Because there's definitely some uranium plays that we represent that, there's no news to speak of at certain times of the year, and everyone just kind of hides until the ice packs in. So, getting a little bit of diversity here is a good thing.
Yeah.
Certainly sharing the risk across two different sectors is mighty, and it all goes to the same end result, which is allowing me to drive from my home to my office in a more efficient, hopefully
Yeah.
cheaper way.
Yeah. Well, that's, like I said, we didn't deviate from the mission statement. And so we're not chasing anything. We're just getting back into it and with the right opportunity. That was the key.
Macro wise, uranium prices, where are we at right now?
Yeah, well, we're still hovering at 50, right? We would like to we'd like to get back to 60. And I think, I've had every theory under the sun, and I've bought into all of them. And I really hate to think that I know what I'm talking about, because I don't. If it happens, when it happens, look, I was in California in August of 21, and I was waking up and checking the markets every morning, and bang, like I'm looking at all the uranium equities, and they're just going crazy. Millions of share volume, and from what? No catalyst. We didn't put a news release out. Others didn't put news releases out. It was simply the spot price started to run. Sprott was making a lot of noise on his New York listing that was ultimately turned down, but that thing isn't dead. But that goes to show you. So you wake up, boom, it's going to come. I don't know when. It should have. The rubber band should have snapped a long time ago, if you ask me. But
years ago, really.
Yeah. So
if Putin doesn't wake up one morning, does everybody feast?
Oh God. Yeah. Well, there's something. That, talk about a big news story. That one would be one. There you go. If he doesn't wake up, oh boy.
They'll prop him up like they did Brezhnev for about 6 months. They'll play Weekend at Bernie's.
I was just gonna say they wheel him out, get the hand up there. Yeah.
Who knows? They might be doing that already.
Yeah. Well, there's rumors.
He might be smelling a bit ripe.
Yeah. Jeez. That's lovely. Thanks.
Let's end on that.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you, sir.
This is Alex Klenman. He's the CEO of Azincourt Energy, not Azincourt Resources. Ticker symbol is AAZ. And listen, look, I know it's my job to storytell and to try and find a good way to help my client companies put the best face forward. But, we've had some conversations over the years where I have said, seriously though, Alex, what the fuck is happening? And you have always, always, always said, here's what's happening, whether it's with your company or the greater market, or, bad guys that are coming at you and threatening you and shorting your stock. Like there's been enough for a book. I hope you've been taking notes over the years, because it'll be a blinder. But honestly, I can say with a straight face that Azincourt at 10 million doesn't make any sense to me in any way, shape, or form. It's so oversold and undervalued, and everything that you've done that's advanced this thing over the past 2 years, there's been absolutely no stock price benefit for it. That's going to change at some point.
Yes, it will.
And when it does, I think you're going to be looking at a slingshot. I'm selling a lot of stuff, but you at your price, that's something I check every morning and think, well, if it gets down to,
No, I listen. You speak the truth, and I don't duck it. And love me or hate me, and I know people are, I'm in the markets, and I'm a good target, and I'm not perfect. But one thing I definitely do is I respond, and I let everybody have their say. And if you want to rip me a new one, go ahead. It's the anonymous ones that drive me crazy. I prefer to have a straight conversation with somebody. And so, if anybody ever wants to reach out and ask me the hard questions, you're going to get answers. Whether that it's not always easy, Chris, and you know that.
I do know that a lot. But I also know that once you get through the 4.5 cent barrier, it's looking at level 2. It's a kind of clear sailing.
Yeah. And I think all we're really seeing is the manifestation of a bad market and not having cash flow. So people who are selling shares right now may be down across the board everywhere. And for whatever reason, they're going to unload a little bit of Azincourt. And it really is, it's lost paper. Unless you happen to buy it at 3.5 on a dip. I mean, if you're selling it at 4, what's your cost? It's certainly not 4.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of the few that picks up the dips in your trading. But even the traders aren't trading as much. You don't see the algorithms. They don't have as much liquidity to play with. And it's a different ballgame right now than we've seen. I mean, in the past, we were doing 3, 4, 5 million a day without breaking a sweat.
Yeah, well, and on the level 2 right now on the ask at 4.5 cents, there's only 280,000 shares there, and then 33,000 at 5. Like,
right. And what you're seeing is the close prices or the close print. You're not seeing the algos, that the day orders that come in on the algos. So there'll be 2 million there on the offer tomorrow morning, and that's just simply the day offers. They're mostly algorithms, and it is just there. It spooks people. But it's great when you do see what you just mentioned. The fact is, the real orders aren't. There isn't a lot of those retail orders sitting on the offer.
Yeah, be a nice market if we didn't have to worry about the algos, wouldn't it?
You love them, you hate them. They're like those birds on the back of the rhinos that peck away. The rhino says, that's irritating, but you got a job to do. Some people like them. They do their thing. They do create liquidity, but they hijack retail. Flash Boys, which is on my shelf there, is a really good book by Michael Lewis. You can read about how the high frequency trading and really started, and what they can do to your order. You're unaware of the stuff that's going on in the milliseconds. But yeah, they're out there and they can be really irritating. But the banks aren't going to do anything about it. The regulators aren't going to do anything about it. They're here to stay, and they're fee generators, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, on that miserable note,
enjoy the day.
I still think that when you see a stock that is progressing, a company is progressing along nicely over a year, and the stock goes downwards as a result, I think that's a really good sign to maybe start getting in, not just in a small way either, but in a significant way. If you believe that your 2 projects are not worth $10 million of your market cap, I think you're nuts.
Yeah, well, we spent a hell of a lot of money at East Preston. So you know what? And I got one thing before we go. The blue wrestler mask on the wall behind you. Man, see, I grew up other side. You're going over there.
I know, but they're everywhere.
Right. Yeah. No, but the one up there is the. Look at that.
There we go. This is how I should do all my interviews.
Yeah, walk into a 7-Eleven and see how people panic with that thing on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Won't stay on.
Well, listen, I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm Canadian. I was born in Toronto, but I grew up in LA. We would get the Mexican stations, and you would see the Mexican wrestling, and they all had the masks on. And then there were these movies on KMEX.
Yeah,
where you'd see these midnight movies, and the hero was a sort of a superhero wrestler. So there was always these wrestling scenes in the movies, and I think his name was Santos, if I'm not mistaken. So look that up. But I couldn't help but notice the great wrestling mask back there. And
look, there's about a dozen of them in this office. If you ever want to invest in professional wrestling, you let me know. We got you sorted out.
Well, I'd invest in the mask.
Cinco de Mayo at the Commodore Ballroom, already sold out.
Cinco de Mayo, yeah, all right, there you go. I like it.
Thanks, Alex. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, man. And
I appreciate it.
Arriba.
Thanks, Chris.